Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to ask a question that has fascinated thinkers for millennia. What is death? Now, we're not looking at this as some morbid topic, not at all. Instead, we're exploring it as a kind of gateway to purpose. And our guide is thousands of years of Indian philosophy. For millennia, this wasn't just a question about the end. You see, for Indian thinkers, it was the central investigation into the very nature of being itself. Answering this question really determines how you understand consciousness, responsibility, and what it even means to be alive in the first place. You know, the great sage Swami Vivekananda put it perfectly. He said that facing our own mortality is what dissolves all the petty stuff and gives us true clarity in life. Okay, so let's dive into this. So the foundational answer from the ancient Vedic and Upanishadic traditions is pretty radical. It's that your true self, your core essence, was never actually born. And because of that, it can never, ever die. This core concept is called the Atman. It's this idea that deep within you, there's an immortal, self-luminous essence that's completely separate from your body, your thoughts, your feelings, and your senses. It's just pure, unfiltered awareness. This idea is absolutely central to the Bhagavad Gita. It's actually used to dissolve fear itself. Krishna teaches the warrior Arjuna that if the soul, the Atman, is truly indestructible, well then, death only ever affects the temporary shell. The real you can't actually be harmed. The Upanishads use an equally powerful metaphor to illustrate this. Just imagine, your body is a vehicle, a chariot, and at the moment of death, when that chariot breaks down, the rider, which is your true self, simply gets out and walks away, completely unharmed and fully conscious. Okay, now let's move to a fascinating counterpoint and see how this whole thing builds. Because another major school of thought, which came from the very same soil, it challenges the entire idea of an unchanging soul. Buddhism comes along and poses this really startling question. It suggests that maybe our search for some permanent, static self is actually the root of the whole problem. And this is the doctrine of anatta, or non-self. It says that what we call me isn't a solid thing at all. It's just this constantly changing combination of form, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. Think of it like a flowing river, not a fixed stone. So you might be asking, how can rebirth happen without a soul to be reborn? Well, the classic analogy for this is just perfect. It's not some thing that moves from one body to the next. Instead, it's a continuous stream of consciousness and karmic energy, kind of like one candle's flame lighting another. The causal link is there, but the flame itself is brand new. So we're left with this really powerful contrast. Is your core an eternal, unchanging essence that just persists through time? Or is it a dynamic, ever-changing process that simply continues its own momentum? Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Despite this fundamental difference, a soul versus no soul, both of these traditions actually converge on a shared problem they're trying to solve and a shared ultimate goal. That problem is called samsara. It's this relentless cycle of death and rebirth. And whether you believe in a soul or a stream of consciousness, both traditions see this cycle as being driven by ignorance and attachment, and as a state that ultimately involves suffering. The main goal? Get off the wheel. And the engine driving this whole cycle of samsara is karma. Now, it's crucial to understand this isn't about some divine judge handing out rewards and punishments. It's an impersonal, natural law, kind of like gravity. Every action, every thought, every single intention you have plants a seed that will inevitably, one day, ripen and shape your future. So, the path to freedom, or what's called moksha or nirvana, follows these core steps. First, you have to really understand what's binding you to the cycle. Then you work to purify your actions in your mind so you stop planting those negative karmic seeds. And finally, through knowledge and practice, you achieve ultimate freedom. So that brings us to the most important question of all. Why does any of this ancient philosophy matter to you, right here, right now? Let's bring these massive ideas right down to earth. The implications are pretty profound. If consciousness continues, then moral responsibility is inescapable. Your actions will eventually find their way back to you. Understanding that the body and all our possessions are temporary, well, that brings a deep freedom from attachment. And confronting the fear of death, instead of just ignoring it, becomes a powerful spiritual practice that can even transform grief by awakening the spirit. Ultimately, this wisdom isn't about trying to become immortal or just ignore death. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship to it. The goal is to transcend the fear of death by realizing the timeless, continuous nature of your own consciousness, whatever form you believe that takes. And we'll just leave you with that thought, because in the end, all of these ancient inquiries, they all point to the same truth. Contemplating the end isn't really about dying, it's about discovering how to truly, fully, and fearlessly begin to live.